unauthorized X-Files tie-in edition of dubious veracity and unconcealed paranoia, while secretly studying the woman with the perfect mouth who sat opposite him. He didn't have the energy to concentrate on the book anyway. He'd been on his feet all day, and the constant rocking back and forth of the carriage was almost enough to lull him to sleep, safe in the arms of the train, but he fought it off. Dozing on a train always left him with a stiff neck and a dry mouth, and there was always the danger he'd sleep past his stop, and you couldn't rely on any of this bunch to wake you up. Toby looked briefly around him at the neat men in their neat suits, with bulging briefcases and tightly knotted ties, no doubt listlessly considering another endless day of shuffling papers from one pile to another, and sometimes back again. Deadly dull people leading deadly dull lives. Toby envied all of them, because at least they had some kind of purpose. Toby worked at Gandalf's bookshop, right in the busy centre of Bath. He was officially in charge of the crime and thriller section, but really he was just a shop assistant with a few extra duties. It wasn't a bad place to work. The other assistants were pleasant company, and the shop itself was full of interesting nooks and crannies and intriguing out-of-print treasures. Gandalf's consisted of 4 sprawling floors connected by old twisting stairways and the occasional hidden passage. It was an old building, possibly even Georgian, with many unexpected draughts and floors that creaked loudly as you walked on them, despite the thick carpeting. And everywhere you went, there was the comforting smell of books, of paper and glue and musky leather bindings, of history and dreams compressed into handy volumes. Every wall was covered with shelves, packed tightly with books on every subject under the sun, and a few best not mentioned in polite company. There were standing displays and dump bins and revolving wire stands filled with more knowledge, entertainment, and general weird shit than any man could read in one lifetime. Gandalf's prided itself on catering for every taste and interest, from the latest paperback bestsellers to obscure philosophical discourses bound in goatskin, from science to mysticism, gothic romances to celebrity biographies, from aromatherapy to creative knitting to erotic feng shui. You could be sure of finding something unexpected in every genre on any subject. Gandalf's had books on everything, including a few it shouldn't. The shop's owner was fearless and would stock anything he thought people wanted. There'd been a certain amount of controversial publicity just recently when the owner refused to stop stocking the new English translation of the infamous Necromonicon, even though it was officially banned. Toby didn't care. He had already survived far greater scandals over selling copies of Spycatcher and the Satanic Verses. He'd flipped briefly through the Necronomicon, just out of curiosity, but found the dry prose style unreadable and the illustrations frankly baffling. People were still paying 20 quid a copy, though, proof if proof were needed that you could sell absolutely anything if people thought they weren't supposed to be reading it. He'd been much more taken with the joy of Frogs, a sex manual where all the illustrations featured cartoon frogs going at it in unusual and inventive ways. Some customer had ordered the book over the phone, but so far hadn't worked up enough courage to come in and pick it up. Just as well, really. The shop's staff had pretty much worn the book out between them. One had even made notes. The real money still came from the never-ending turnover of brand-name bestsellers, Stephen King, Terry Pratchett, J.K. Rowling, and whoever the hell it was who wrote those marvelous children's fantasies about Bruin Bear and the Sea Goat. The only thing Toby really disliked about his current occupation was having to get up so damned early in the morning. He lived alone, in a characterless semi-detached he'd inherited from an uncle, and most mornings his bed felt like a womb. He'd had to put his alarm clock on the other side of the room, so he'd be forced to get up out of bed to turn it off. So up at 7 a.m. to catch the train at 8 in order to get to work at 9. No doubt there were those who had to get up even earlier, but Toby preferred not to think about them because it didn't...